It's the second half of the year 2022. May it be the better one for us all in Jesus' name. Welcome to the 7th month, July. Big cheers and congratulations to every celebrant. May the very best be yours. I shared a post over the weekend asking how expectant you are at this moment. So let's start there today. For me, I'd say I'm on an 8 on this one. There's a lot I'm looking forward to in this second half. A thing or two that I've actually had on my to-do list for years as well. So I'm really expectant, and sometimes I would say I even get excited about the possibilities to come. So are you also expectant? If yes, how much? And if not, what could be the reason? This actually, I would say, is a point that needs to be crossed to go on to what we'll be touching on today, preparing for more. And just to clarify a bit on this, more here isn't just with respect to quantity. It could also mean quality or frequency. So if you know generally that you can enjoy better or great change on anything, then you're listening in to a timely word. One thing I've realized we can easily sleep on when we want change or more is the actual preparation for it, which brings us to the second big question for today. Are you prepared for the change you desire? Or let me put it this way. Are you ready for the more you want? You see, it's one thing to want something. It's another thing entirely to be ready or intentionally prepare for it. You might even have, moved from just wanting to expecting, but will what you're expecting feel welcomed when it arrives? So you want a baby? Perhaps you're even expecting one, but are you prepared? Even if you're not fully mentally or emotionally prepared, because I can tell you that's one learning curve there. But are you signed up for your prenatals? Have you started shopping for baby clothes, beddings and all? Here's another. You want more contract or job opportunities, but is your current structure, the content you have together, the schedule that you're running with, are these able to take on a stretch? Now, there will definitely be specifics that each thing we're looking out for in our lives at the moment would need, to be welcomed, like taking time to reflect, to learn more about it being part of the general and basic one that cuts across. Today, we'll be looking into two key things I need us to stay mindful of in addition to those specifics as we prepare to welcome that more. And they are declutter and filter. Let me repeat that. Declutter and filter. On today's episode, I'll look just into declutter. And then on tomorrow's live session on a Facebook group and on Instagram Live, I'll conclude on filter. Now, when you think of the word declutter, what comes to mind for you? For me, apart from it meaning taking out what, you don't need anymore, those things that you've kept for so long, for many years in your space or in a particular area, it also covers putting things in that space in their right order, right? It's not just about those things being scattered in one box or in one shelf. You're trying to put a form of orderliness there and then, of course, trash the junk and the things that shouldn't be there anymore. You see, whenever you're preparing for more, you're essentially trying to create space for that more. And the more space that you're able to create, the better for the change that you're expecting. Now, 3 different spaces that I believe we need to be intentional to declutter. 1, the most popular one, physical space. 2, the mind space. And 3, your time. Let's start with the physical space. The physical space, this one, I must confess, takes a very high level of intentionality. And really, I'm talking from experience on this one. Let's do a quick check, all right? Do you have that shopping bag or drawer or cupboard somewhere in your office or home where you keep things till later and that later never actually comes? Now you get me on this, all right? The truth is that cluttered up space, even though physical, subtly takes a space in our minds as well. Until it's sorted or cleared out, it will ripple its effect into other things, into other aspects of our lives. And a very popular one, of course, is that you would take much more time when you're looking for something. And of course, that always comes with a sense of unease. Without a doubt, decluttering our physical spaces is critical as we prepare for more. 2 simple hacks on this one is 1, you could break that work down into chunks of whatever it is that you want to cover. So let's say you want to go into a cupboard that you've cluttered up for quite a long time. You want to decide to do just a section at that moment and then wait till another time to do another section. The other hack is to allocate a time for it. An example is to say 20 minutes weekly for starters, and whatever you're able to do within that 20 minutes is what you accept and appreciate till the following week. One thing I can tell you about this time one, though, is that most times when you get into that decluttering activity, you might not actually mind that the time is over and you would rather just complete it at that moment. And for those who know they will still find it hard to get this decluttering of the physical space done, especially many who find it challenging trashing or letting go of items that have some form of emotional attachment. Hint, hint, myself, you might want to consider delegating, outsourcing, or having a firmer loved one do this along with you. Because, those times when you pick up an item and you remember who gave it to you or the circumstance in which you acquired it, you might say, I might just need it later, for memory's sake and all of that. But sometimes it might just be good and appropriate to let some of these things go. All right. Now, I have some declutter plans myself this holiday, and I commit to taking time off to ticking some of these bits off my own list. Let's go on to decluttering the mind space. Many times we have this space totally cluttered up, actually. And sometimes some unresolved emotions are also involved as well. Maybe emotions of grief or disappointment in someone or in something that you were looking out for that didn't happen. All these things somehow get to, clutter up our minds. So if you look at your mind space today, how would you rate yourself? I remember in my teen years, I just felt like I was carrying around so much, that feeling of being overwhelmed. And to add to that, I knew that I wasn't actually moving in my desired direction. So I felt led at that time to write down everything that was on my mind. And I can tell you, I wrote down over 20 things. Wow. For that age, right? You can imagine that. Did writing down everything that I could think of or that were top of mind for me resolve everything for me? Not really, but I definitely felt better looking at those things that were weighing me down on that piece of paper. And I was able eventually to gradually work on taking each off as the days went on. In decluttering the mind space, many times, in fact, most times, writing down does a huge heavy lifting. Then when you're done, putting it all out there in a space where you can actually stare at them and look at them, you now want to sort through to identify the things that probably require actions, some things that might need answers because they are actually just, questions, questions like, where am I today? Is this the best place for me? What are the options I really need to look at? What are the pros and cons of these options and all of that? There are questions that you just need to answer. Now, there are also some things that could just be concerns or burdens, and you'll be surprised to find out that this one, for a lot of us, is actually a very strong one. And to think that these burdens or concerns sometimes are beyond one circle of control is another thing entirely. Now, if you identify any in this category, it's a burden, it's in your mind, and it's beyond your control. It's not really something you can do anything about. If you're a person of faith, you want to pray about it till that burden is lifted, okay? And if you also have a friend who would be a great listening ear or who can walk you through, feeling better about it, by all means, please share. You see, the mind, your mind, our minds, they were gifted to us to be creative and productive. And if you're not giving it that space and it's all cluttered up, you'll be holding yourself back from the more that you can create, from the more that you can receive, and from the more that you can enjoy. The last but definitely not the least to declutter is the schedule or time space. The reason many of us can't at this time in our lives take up much more yet is because we have a loaded schedule. Right from when we get up in the morning to when we get back in bed at night, it's from one activity to another with no proper breaks, even for rest, for leisure, or even to connect with loved ones. You see, till you're able to actually track where that time is going, you really won't be able to put more order around it. When you've identified how the time you have is spent daily, you need to probe how key those activities are with respect to their relevance to your desired goal or the more that you're expecting. You might even discover that some things need machines, right, to experience higher level of efficiency and all of that. And some things might actually need delegating or outsourcing, and some things might really just need to go off. I remember a while back, when I had the plan of 3 days a week to go to the gym, for some reasons, I'd become stressed with other things that had started coming up in my space and that I was focusing on. But thanks to my hubby, who I shared this with at that time, who made me realize that, if I needed to step down on any major activity in my life, it was fine to do so. And the only thing I could think of to create more space was to step out on one of my days of going to the gym just to accommodate the more that I had taken on at that time. Now, don't worry, I'm not pushing for you to stop working out or not to be as fit as you need to be, but I'm basically making us remember today that it's okay to readjust our schedule and our times based on the demands and expectations our seasons have on us. Apart from that, based on the more that you're expecting, you really need to become okay with adjusting your time and creating much more space for that which you really desire. So, which of this do you need to start with today? The physical, the mind, or the time? And as we go into the second half of the year, please stay expectant. In fact, don't just be expectant. Start to raise your level of expectation, okay? And of course, please be intentional about preparing for more. If you need to talk more on this, let's connect. Send me the word more on any DMs, Facebook, Instagram, even WhatsApp. Or send a mail to FolaFayo@folafayo.com. Enjoy the rest of the month and God bless.